Hey guys, it's Marcus here from TalkSober.com, and today what I want to do is I want to talk to you about where anxiety comes from. All right, where does anxiety come from? We know that sometimes we get anxiety and it's not fun to deal with, it's not fun to live with, and it can be totally disruptive to your life. So let's talk about where anxiety comes from, because I think if you understand where anxiety comes from, that's the first step in eliminating it from your life. So there's several things that are at play here when we talk about anxiety. There are small anxiety things like the stuff that you eat, okay? Stuff like this. Sometimes if you have too much coffee, like I like to have my coffee here, right? If I have too much or I don't switch to decaf or something like that, what I eat and drink can affect my anxiety. There's also situational, right? Situational anxiety, where it's like, okay, are you going to give a speech, or are you going to do something that's kind of nerve-wracking or thought-provoking or something like this? Now, there's lots of things here like eat, there's also sleep. There's also antidepressant, right? If you go off antidepressants, sometimes you're anxious, and things like that. Now, these are all like small. Okay, we'll draw a little small guy up there. These are the small things that affect anxiety that you can change in a really easy way, right? It's like, okay, get more sleep, eat better stuff, go to better situations, and, figure out your medicine schedule or whatever. Now, one of the more complicated things, the anxiety that I deal with, is from past trauma, past abuse, things like that. And I want to kind of explain this because this stuff's all easy, you can read a book about that. But there's something deeper going on with people with chronic, really debilitating anxiety. And that is trauma, past abuse, different things in their life. And I want to kind of show you how the brain stores memory in trauma. And I want to show you in the way of a computer. Okay, I'm going to draw a computer here. Let's see if we could put that little CD drive up there, little button and stuff like that. That's our computer. Now, what happens when you run a computer? There is what's called a hard drive, and then there's these little memory sticks called a RAM, okay, random access memory, and this is your hard disk, okay? And I'm explaining this, and it's all going to make sense in just a minute. Now, what happens here is when you're using your computer, various different windows open up, okay? You got Windows, maybe you got Skype, maybe you got Facebook, maybe you're watching this video, maybe you're doing all these kind of things, and maybe you got like Microsoft Word, maybe you got this open, okay? And you got all these different things open. All right, now the way that it works is when these things are open, they are going into your random access memory. Now, your random access memory on your computer makes it easy for these things to load, right? Because the hard drive's slow and it's clunky and it's got a lot of stuff on it. So if you were to run all these just on your hard drive without the random access memory, everything's going to get slow, okay? Now, what happens in the olden days, and I think it still happens now, is if you were to go and you had all this stuff opened on your computer and you push the power button, the computer freaks out and gets mad and shuts down. Right? So it shuts down and all these things get scattered all over this hard drive. They're just scattered everywhere. Like there's a fragment of Microsoft Word over here, there's a fragment of this video over here, and it's all over your hard drive. So now what's happening is your hard drive has little bits and pieces and chunks of information all over the place because it did a hard shutdown instead of like closing everything out like you're supposed to. This is known as a fragmented hard drive. There's pieces of everything everywhere, right? And that happens when you shut the computer down. Now, the reason I'm describing this like this is because this is the same thing that happens when someone is traumatized. In order to save the integrity of your brain and to deal with certain circumstances, your brain hits that reset button, okay? And what happens is it hits the reset button and says, I can't deal with this, I'm going to fragment it. And little pieces of this memory go everywhere, right? So maybe it was one time you were traumatized, maybe it was over and over again, but whatever's happening, instead of a congruent, fluid memory, right? that says memory, memory of an event, what's happening is now there's pieces everywhere, okay? And the way that the brain works is every little piece is attached to something. So you might have a piece here where you saw the face expression of the person who abused you, right? So it's got this face expression in your brain. Maybe he's got his eyebrows like that, and he's got this mean face. And that is attached to this memory. Okay, now because it's all fragmented in your brain, what happens is you have your eyes, right? You have your ears. I'll try to draw an ear there. You have your nose, right? And you have your mouth. And hopefully you don't look like this. It's more like a Picasso thing. But what happens is you have your eyes, ears, nose, mouth, and you have your sense of touch. Okay? So you have all these things, and they are getting data input from the outside world. Okay, so you're walking through life, and all of a sudden you might see a guy in a crowd of a bunch of people, right? Here's this crowd of a bunch of people. And what happens is your brain picks up on the fact that one of those people, even though you're consciously not even focusing on it, it picks up on the fact that one of the people looks like that attacker guy up here. Right? It picks up on it so fast and so consciously, it's not even in thought anymore, but it goes, boom, that reminds me of this, which is attached to this, and all of a sudden you feel anxious just like you're in that trauma again, and it feels like you're going crazy because you don't know what's going on, right? This stuff is not set in stone. It's not like you say, here's the exact thing that happened, here's what's going on. And the problem is that when many people are traumatized, they have so many of these fragments around their brain that are affecting their daily life, right? It's like, okay, go into a crowd of people, you're going to find something. Watch the news or whatever. Read a book. Talk to someone. Whatever happens, it's triggering all this stuff. And these fragments are triggers. Okay? You might have triggers that are like obvious triggers. Like, okay, for me, I used to get yelled at all the time when I was a kid. And now when people yell, it's a big trigger. Even the other day, my kid was like, why do you always think mom's yelling at you? She's not yelling at you. But that's the way my brain sees it, right? Because of these triggers. Now, that's an obvious one. There are some less obvious ones, like certain things people say and things like that. So we have all these defragmented parts of our brain, and I'll try to get a new chalk here. Good thing we got a backup. We have all these fragmented parts of our brain that are split up, that are causing triggers, right? Things we touch, things we smell, things we see, things we taste, things we hear. All these things are triggering this stuff, and this is where anxiety comes from. Now, the key to getting past anxiety is starting to understand these fragments and starting to integrate them. Right? You want to integrate them into normal memory, because the problem here is, like this computer, there's nothing set in stone, right? If you were to shut the computer off, I think the new ones do, but back then, if you shut the computer off and you turn it back on, it'd be like, okay, we need to defragment, and we need to figure this stuff out, and everything that you were working on is now gone, okay? Now, in your brain, what happens is all this stuff is still here, right? So you have this timeline of these events, timeline of this stuff, and it's all still going on, and it's going this way, right? And what happens is when your fragmented brain has all these pieces in it, it never puts them together and it never integrates in your memory as, hey, this is something that happened way back here. I am now over here, or wherever we're at, right? I'm now over here. And your brain can't separate those things. So what we need to do is we need to start to integrate them. So I hope this little video helps you understand where anxiety comes from in trauma, in abuse, in checkered pasts and things like that. It's because these things are happening, and it could be happening because of things that were done to you, things that you've done, ongoing recurring thoughts and stuff like that. But the fact of the matter is you got these fragments and they're getting triggered. Now that you're starting to understand this, we can start to integrate them, start to realize when they're happening, and start to realize, hey, you know what? That's just my brain doing what it's going to do. It's not going to kill me. It's not going to hurt me. It's just doing what it needs to do. And now that I understand that, I can fight it in a whole new way. So I hope this helped you. If it did, subscribe to my channel. Go to talksober.com. And subscribe here on YouTube and get some other videos. We're going to talk about how to integrate these memories, how to integrate the past, and how to deal with these fragments so that you can live a normal life. Thanks again for watching. I'm Marcus from talksober.com. Make sure you subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.